This year marks the 20-year anniversary of the most devastating flood in North Dakota history. For many living in the area at that time, it changed their lives forever. One meteorologist was keeping a watchful eye long before the dikes broke. Chester Fritz Distinguished Professor and weather expert Leon Osborne is here to talk about how the Red River flooded two cities. Thanks for joining us today, Leon.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Now, you've been working at the university for over 35 years. You grew up in Texas, and then the university hired you. Then basically mid-career, there is a devastating flood. Could you tell us about the winter leading up to the event?
Well, the winter of 96-97 was spectacular in the fact we had 14 blizzards that impacted North Dakota and a large portion of South Dakota, producing inordinate amounts of snow, generally speaking about 100 inches of snow across the region, a little bit less in the Grand Forks area, but a little bit more towards the headwaters of the Red River, where we had some snowfall amounts up to 140 inches. And of course, with that much snow, over the course of the winter, it starts to melt in the spring and it has to go somewhere.
So could you take us back to the time in 97 when you realized that was going to be a more catastrophic flood?
Well, we happened to be working on a research program that required us to monitor weather conditions on a regular basis across both North Dakota and South Dakota. And as that process continued and we noted the amount of heavy snow, it was in the early portion of January we started asking questions as to whether or not we'd be able to continue doing our research, because it would be impacted if we lost some of the utilities that were necessary to conduct our research. So as we got into the third week of January, we were pretty convinced that we were going to see a major, if not a historic, river flooding.
So at the time, you're one of the meteorologists who predicted it the most accurately. How did you predict it so well?
Well, it was really a team activity. Myself and some of my staff members, primarily my geographical information systems specialist, we prepared what was referred to really as a bathtub model by computing an estimated amount of runoff of snowfall at the time period, filling up the basin, which would be the Grand Forks area, and we came up with an estimate of about 52 foot for the flood crest. Now, that was not the actual crest value, but we had that crest, we were looking at a 52-foot flood as early as the first part of February.
Mm-hmm. So once the flood hit, what did you do? Did you evacuate?
No. I did evacuate from my home because we were part of mandatory evacuation where my home was located. But it turned out we evacuated to the Regional Weather Information Center. Again, we had a research program that was ongoing, and we were told by our research advisors if we stopped the program, we'd probably lose our funding. So we worked throughout the entire flood, continuing the research activity. And we were the only ones within the Odegaard school that was still around throughout the entire flood.
So what was your favorite memory back then?
I don't know if I've got a favorite memory. I guess now some of the more notable memories are hearing the large helicopters using the Clifford Hall, Odegaard Hall parking lot as their landing strip. At the time, I was working with Prairie News Journal, and we had a weekly television program, and our very last program was flying along the Red River, and we did our last broadcast flying above the Red River as we looked across the great expanse of water that was going east and west out of the Red River.
Are we more prepared today if there's another disaster like this?
Oh, much more so prepared, not only from the standpoint of Grand Forks being prepared with its flood wall and its capability of handling a flood well over 60 feet. But I think also the science has advanced. We're using new hydrological models to predict flood output. We have more data sets, and I think overall we've learned tremendously from the 97 flood how not to be unprepared for the next flood.
So the flood changed many lives forever. How did it change yours?
Well, it changed mine. It changed the perspective. Flooding is a very slow disaster to see it materialize. And to see the number of lives that were affected and the amount of devastation that it created, it really brought home the importance of being able to provide accurate information. And subsequent to that time period, I started a business and ran a business and doing weather forecasting. And the flood of 97, again, pointed out just how important weather information, accurate and timely weather information would be to many people across the country.